Welcome to another edition of Walton Entertainment. Today we'll have more news, information, and entertainment from your local hometown.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Miller from Monroe Veterinary Clinic, and I just wanted to bring y'all a little bit of information about your pets as you're getting ready to go into the holidays. So one thing we want y'all to be really careful with is feeding your pets table scraps from the table. I know that's really hard not to do, especially at Thanksgiving, but one thing you can do is go ahead and get your pet's favorite treat, either from us or from the pet store, and get them something they've been used to having and keep that on hand at home so that your guest might not be as tempted to feed them from the table. The risk that we run into when we feed our pets, even just plain turkey from the table or anything with bones in it, we can actually cause a lot of damage. So if you feed something that has bones in it, that can cause a hole in the intestinal tract and can be a surgical emergency if it gets lodged in there. The other thing that we have to be very careful about is something called pancreatitis. So anytime our pets eat a fatty meal, especially if they're not used to eating that, even if it's just a little taste of something, that can inflame their pancreas really severely. It can cause them to have vomiting, diarrhea, and really severe abdominal pain. Treatment for pancreatitis can be something that they deal with lifelong, and it can be hard to get them stabilized and counteract that inflammation once it gets started. So the best way to prevent that is to keep your pets on just the food that they tolerate well at home, and definitely make sure any of your guests coming into your house know not to feed your pet any food from the table. This goes for cats as well. Cats like to try to get treats too. I know my cat does, and they also can get sick, so it's not just dogs. The other thing that I want y'all to keep in mind as we're getting ready to head towards Christmas is that a lot of our local shelters have both puppies and adult dogs and kittens and cats that are going to be looking for homes this year. So as y'all are looking into maybe adding a new pet to your family, I challenge you to spend even just half the time you spend looking at a breeder to find a dog or cat that's going to fit your family, to go and look at our local shelters and call around and ask at local humane societies. Go and meet these animals. A lot of them are going to be coming to you house trained, leash trained, knowing tricks, and looking to spend the holidays with a family after their family that they used to live with dropped them back off. It's really important that y'all take a look at these pets, and I think you'd be surprised, even if you're looking for a purebred animal, how many of those you can actually find in shelters. If you have any questions about anything we've discussed today, or if you'd like some recommendations about places to look for a new furry friend for your family, give us a call. Our phone number is 770-267-3690. We'd be happy to chat. Happy holidays.
Hi, welcome to Monroe Walton Center for the Arts. Obviously our Christmas shop is up and going strong. We have over 50 local artists featured in our Christmas shop. Tons of things to choose from, everything from hand-forged iron works like fireplace pokers and kitchen equipment, to flowers and candles and soap and jewelry, pottery, of course original art. So just so many beautiful things for you to choose from. Everything in the shop right now is under $200, and really 90% of the things in the shop are $25 and under. So just a huge selection of things that are really affordable for anybody in your life. Teacher's gifts, girlfriend gifts, even things for your husband. So there's just tons of things here to choose from. We do have workshops still going on. Next week or this week during Thanksgiving week, we're open. The shop is open, regular hours, except of course on Thanksgiving. No workshops and classes going on the week of Thanksgiving, but that next week things start back up to normal. We have our ongoing classes for kids and adults in pottery, drawing, painting, all kinds of things going on. If you come into the shop, you can come get our class list. You can register for classes here, or you can register online at monroewaltonarts.org. Some of the special classes we have going on during the end of November and December is we have a Jewelry 101 class, just to give you an idea of some of the things we have going on. Stormy is here and she'll take you, if you're a beginner, she'll help you make your first pair of earrings. If you're more advanced, she'll come in with a project or with something you need help on, and she'll help you. So that's on Tuesdays. And again, if you go online or you come into the shop, you can find all of this information out. One thing we're excited about is the pottery makeup workshop. So we have these drop-in pottery classes for our soiree Saturdays, and they've been super popular, but we've heard from a lot of people that they weren't able to make it in on the last couple of Saturdays. So we're having a makeup day. If you missed our pottery workshops, we're doing the standing angels and or the, what's the other one? The nativity scene. So you can make both of those, or you can choose one or the other and make those. And that's actually going to be kind of a date night or girls' night out. It's kind of different for us. So that's on Friday night, let's see, December 13th. So again, it's online. We also have a girls' night out, sip and paint, the next Friday night on the 20th. So things are still going on even in December. Shop with us, come take a class. Don't forget the home tour. Get your tickets, come into the center, or you can get those online at monroewaltonarts.org. About 12 houses on the tour, historic homes. It's December 14th from 1 to 5. And also here for the kids during that time, we'll have 4.5 hours of pottery and pizza and painting for the kids. So come in, pick up a class list, go online, learn about all the things we have going on. There's something for everybody in the family here. You'll love it here. We have our hot apple cider, our homemade cookies for $1. The cider is free. Homemade cookies for $1. Come in, relax, browse, shop, support local art and local artists. You'll love it here. See you soon. Merry Christmas.
Creative artists can offer you a wide range of video production. Call the experts and discuss your project today, whether it's your special event or your company. Creative Artist, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist produces this program you're watching. Call Creative Artist today, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist, they'll put you in the spotlight.
Hello Walton County, this is Kevin Littlewood, Chairman's Report on Walton Entertainment. It's November, heading into Thanksgiving, getting close to the end of the year, and each year the Chamber always has me to do a State of the County. And this year, I normally do it in December, but this year due to the mayors were unable to be there in November, so they wanted me to do mine in November, and they'll do the cities in December. So this past week I was able to give the State of the County, and we present a Walton County annual report. If you want to get one, you're welcome to come by and get one here at the Commissioner's office at the Historic Courthouse, or it's online at waltoncounty.gov. What you'll find inside is the revenues that we've brought in for the year, the taxes and other fees that was able to bring in $60 million, and then the expenditures was $58,775,000. It's broke into a pie chart. You'll be able to see where your dollars go, and that way you'll understand a little bit more about the county budget and what goes on. It shows you the millage rates for the cities and the county. And then something we're really proud of is that Walton County is still a AA- at Standard & Poor's, and a big A, little A2 with Moody's. This is the rating companies in New York, and we're very proud to be able to still be strong financially, and that's something that you'll find inside. We have animal control, public works, water department, recycle center, planning, zoning, public safety, Parks and Recreation, Economic Development. It tells you a little bit about what's going on in each one of those this year, and just a good overview of what's going on in Walton County and some of the things that may be there. On the back has a list of your commissioners with their addresses and their email addresses, and then you have the chairman's corner that tell a little bit about what's coming on for the year. Economic development continues to be strong still here in the county. The housing market's come back. There's a lot of people building houses here, and we got a couple of major projects that'll be announced probably in the next 4 to 6 months. Also, we will be under the splice that was passed last year, continuing to work with the cities and with DOT to improve some roads that we have, adding some lanes and some intersections, and trying to help move Walton is what we're trying to do, moving Walton. And also in between, we will be building a splash water pad park. I've talked to you about that before. We'll have more details coming up with that as part of the splice that was there. And also the fire station down at Hard Labor Creek is on slate to start early next year. Also, as part of the splice, along with that is a community center and gym similar to Felker, which will be down at Social Circle, down at the Parks and Recreation facilities down there, land that we bought across the road from there, right behind the old Social Circle High School football field. So a lot of things going on as we get into the holiday season. If you have any questions or concerns, give me a call here, 770-267-1316. Otherwise, I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. We're going to show you a few of the dogs that are available for adoption here at Walton County Animal Control. It's hard to believe we've turned that corner and those winter months are going to be upon us. Make sure if you've got a pet that you watch out for it during these cold weather days. If you've got a dog that's outside, you want to make sure that you've got a shelter for it. The local ordinance does require a properly built or bought shelter that has 4 sides, an opening, a top, and a bottom, and you do have to have proper bedding in with the dog. So make sure if you're keeping a dog outside, we'd rather you have him inside, but if he is outside, make sure you've got proper shelter for it. Lean-tos, airline crates, cages, and even those plastic barrels that you see are not proper shelter. You can get a ticket if you've got a dog outside in the weather with one of those shelters. Also, if we get any of those weather emergencies such as snow or ice, it is illegal to tie a dog outside, so you want to make sure to keep an eye on the weather conditions. If it's a declared weather emergency, you want to bring that dog in. There are people that will take a photograph of your dog, send it to us, and you can get a ticket for that. So just make sure during these cold winter months you remember your pet. When you're inside the house all nice and warm, go ahead, grab them, bring them inside with you. Maybe you don't have a pet to share the winter months with you, go ahead and adopt from us. You can see some of the dogs we're going to show here or look at waltonpets.net.
Here we have a little 3-month-old long-haired kitten. She's a female. She's really sweet when she wants to be, but she needs a good home. She needs somebody that'll love her and spend some time with her.
This is Nala. She is a 1-year-old Siberian Husky mix. She was found on Mount Perrin Church Road. She's had all her shots and dewormed. She is housebroken and she's very, very lovable.
Here we have a little pit mix. She's about 3 years old, female. Her name is Precious, and you can see she's got energy.
This is Lady. She's about a 12-year-old Akita mix. Some people found her back in October, but were never able to locate her owners. She tested heartworm negative. She's really good on the leash. Seems to do good with other dogs, and she sits on command. Really sweet dog. Yeah, she's a senior, but she's got some good years left, so go ahead and add her to your house.
Are you in need of tractor work, bush hogging, grading, cleaning, sod installs, and drainage repair? Then you need Bold Springs Landscape Solutions. Bold Springs Landscape Solutions is a licensed, insured, and certified landscape solutions company. Their services include grading and drainage, bush hogging and clearing work, as well as fencing, landscape, and sod installation. Contact Bold Springs Landscape Solutions today.
Hi, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Vicki Gasaway with the Walton County Senior Citizens Council here in Monroe. We actually have sites in Monroe, Loganville, and Social Circle for your enjoyment. Today I want to talk to you about a serious problem that the state has actually recognized. The Division of Aging Services has done a study, and I wanted you to be aware that there's about 80% of older adults that have a chronic disease, and 68% have at least 2 chronic diseases. The number of older adults in Georgia who face a threat of hunger is more than 300,000 people. And that was startling to me when I first heard that. And we're going to try to do as much as we can here in Walton County to make a difference with those people and with you here in Walton County. For a person who has those chronic diseases, a person who is not eating a balanced diet with a recommended daily allowance of calories, protein, and essential nutrients tend to have more illnesses that will occur. For example, depression is more frequent when you're malnourished, hypertension, diabetes, cancers have been found to be true in cancers as well, asthma, diagnosed arthritis, all types of heart diseases, and so forth. So you can see that there is a direct tie between how well you feel and the kinds of illnesses that you have and your nutritional balanced situation each day. So as a part of the drive from the state and here in Walton County, our goal is to get at least 1/3 of the daily recommended allowance out to all of the people. Now those are a bunch of statistics, but here's what happens here. We come here Monday through Friday and have a great home-cooked meal. It's based on a dietitian's guidelines of what is a balanced diet, and we have a group of people who get together and make recommendations for those menus, and then we serve that here and at all 3 of our sites in Walton County. The people who come here, generally, if they can give like $2 per meal, that's generally what we ask for. If you're not able to give, then we still want you to come because we are concerned about your nutrition. Well, the plus side of this is that not only do you get nutrition, but you get to enjoy all kinds of activities here at the Senior Center. And the socialization here is wonderful. We have all sorts of activities that are available, and we would encourage you just to come down and give us a try. And if you're 60 or older, or the spouse of somebody who is 60 or older, you are certainly welcome to come and take a look and see what kinds of things we have available for you here. Now, if you are not able to get out of your home, if you're homebound, then we do provide Meals on Wheels as well. And that is funded through state and federal funds, local funds, also through United Way is a contributor for us. General Mills has helped us in the past, as well as other providers. So we are thankful for those funding sources that we have. And you have to actually go through a process to be eligible for Meals on Wheels. That process is calling qualified personnel over in Athens at the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, the ADRC, and that phone number is a toll-free number. It's 1-800-474-7540. And you can call and just tell them that you're interested in finding out about Meals on Wheels. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. All of the information is kept confidential, and then they screen people based upon their need. They do take into consideration food security, whether you have money to buy the food, health conditions that you have, and they do a memory test. So there's a variety of screening instruments that they use to help make that determination. Once they evaluate the people who call in, then they will set up on a priority list. And when we have openings and we can provide meals to other people, then we call and they send us the next people on the list. We don't have any way of knowing here who will be next on that list. So I'm sorry that I can't tell you if you call today that we'll start you tomorrow. But the goal is to try to help those who are in the most need to get those Meals on Wheels. So we are so thankful for the services, for our wonderful staff that we have and helping make this possible, and for all of the people who are already coming, who actually have made these great connections and are able to enjoy these wonderful benefits. And we hope you will too. Come and give us a try here at Walton County Senior Center in Monroe or Loganville and Social Circle. Thank you so much for joining us today on Walton Wise.
You're watching Walton Entertainment.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Wagner, and I will be reading The Thanksgiving Story by Alice DeLanglish. Two ships and a big adventure. It was summer day in England. Giles, Constance, and Damaris Hopkins were on their way to America. As they waited with their father and mother on the ship, they could see a great deal going on around them. They were in the harbor of the town of Southampton. Many ships were in the harbor. Two of them were taking on food and water and all the things needed by people going to a new country. The larger ship was the Mayflower. The smaller one was the Speedwell. Men, women, and children were on the ships with their bundles and their boxes. To the children, it was a great adventure. Anything might happen on a ship. Something special would happen to the Hopkins family on their long voyage. The passengers on the Mayflower and on the Speedwell were of many different kinds. All of them were settlers, going to settle or make homes in the new land. Some of them were people that we call pilgrims. A pilgrim is a person who travels to a far-off place because of his religion. In England at the time, everyone had to go to the same church. The pilgrims wanted to be free to have their own church, to worship God in their own way. So they left England and had gone to live in Holland. Now they had come back from Holland to sail to America. Some of the people on the ships were servants, and a few hired workmen. A carpenter like John Alden would be useful in the new land. Some people were going just for adventure. Others were going because they thought England was crowded. There would be more room to farm in America. Between the two decks there was a room or space for passengers. The sailors called this 'tween decks. In the lower part or hold of the ship were barrels of water and food. There were seeds to plant and tools for planting them. There were saws, axes, and hammers for building houses. Some of the barrels held things for trading with the Indians. There was bright-colored cloth. There were beads and knives and little mirrors, all things they had heard the Indians liked to have. Now the time had come for the ships to start on their great adventure. The children would have liked to be on deck to see the land as they sailed away from it. But the sailors were very busy. The captain gave orders for the passengers to stay down below until the ships were out of the harbor. Only the sailors could be on the deck while the sails were being set. How crowded it was below deck! Passengers had small mattresses on the floor, each close to the next one. There was some wooden bunks or ship's beds, and a few people had cabins. In their cabin, Giles, Constance, and Damaris listened. They heard the rattle of the chains as the anchor was raised. They heard the sailors singing. They heard the creak of ropes as sailors worked with the sails. The big white sails would fill with wind and move the ships across the ocean. May we go on deck now? Not until the sails are set. More strange noises and more time to wait. Then the ships were out in the ocean. Soon the captain of the Speedwell put up signal flags. These flags told the other ship that the Speedwell was in trouble. She was leaking and could not go on. Perhaps her captain was afraid to take such a small ship on such a long voyage. Both ships sailed back to land. Some of the passengers from the Speedwell stayed in England. Some of them went on the Mayflower. That made the Mayflower more crowded than ever. There were 102 passengers on that small ship. Many of them were children. A ship sails alone. This time the Mayflower sailed from Plymouth. Out into the wide ocean went the little ship. Now she was all alone. Soon, even the seagulls that followed her had flown back to shore. Many people were seasick. Others were sick because they did not have fresh fruit or vegetables to eat. Most days they ate hard biscuits and salted or dried meat. A few times a week they could make a charcoal fire on sand placed in an iron box and sit around it to get warm. They cooked a big pot of porridge or soup or stew. Nothing felt so good as that warm food in their stomachs. Warm days, sunny days, gray days, rainy days. Then came a big storm. How the waves beat against the ship. Everyone was afraid. Perhaps they would go back to England. After the storm, the sea grew calmer, and the pilgrims gave thanks to God. A baby was born to the Hopkins family, a baby brother for Giles, Constance, and Damaris. What was the new baby to be called? Some of the children on the ship had names like Love, Resolved, Humility, and Remember. There seemed to be only one name for the child born on the ocean, so the Hopkins baby was called Oceanus. The Mayflower sailed on and on. The days and nights grew colder. There was plenty of time to talk about Virginia, the part of America they were going. It would be warm there, with sunshine and flowers and green trees. As the days went on, more people were sick. Would the food and water last until the ship came to land? Some of it would have to be kept for the sailors on the ship going back to England. 2 more months went by. Everyone was tired. No one was very clean. There was no fresh water to wash in. At last, one day a sailor called, "Land ho!" What a scurrying and hurrying up on the deck there was as the passengers all tried to see the shore. As the ship came near, they could see evergreen trees growing near the water. It was not warm Virginia, with its sunshine and flowers. It was Cape Cod, and it was winter. There were no friends to welcome the pilgrims, no houses to live in, but they had come to land, and so they knelt and thanked God for bringing them safely to the new country. They sailed a little farther and came into a sheltered harbor. The new land. Everyone would have liked to go on shore and walk the good, firm ground. The women could hardly wait to wash all their dirty clothes. But first, some of the men went to see if it was safe. There would be Indians. The settlers had heard all kinds of stories about Indians. So the men carried their guns. They would not shoot unless to protect themselves. One of the men who went ashore was Miles Standish. He was a soldier and had been training some of the men to use the guns. Another was Stephen Hopkins, father of the Hopkins children. On the Mayflower, Giles, Constance, and Damaris waited and waited for their father to come back. Oceanus slept and slept, as babies do. The men waded through the ice-cold water, pulling the ship's boat up on the beach. They walked along the shore, and there seemed to be nothing but sand and sand and more sand. They cut some sweet-smelling branches of juniper, a kind of every evergreen, and took them back to the ship. That night, the settlers have a warm wood fire. Some of the women and children on the Mayflower went ashore as soon as they could and had a wash day. There was a pond of fresh water near the beach. It was good to have clean, fresh clothes again. The Mayflower had brought a small sailboat or fishing boat. This was to be taken ashore and mended. Some of the men worked on it. Meanwhile, other men went on looking for corn. They had heard about it from the others who had been to the new land. They would trade with the Indians for seed to plant. If they could not find corn, everyone might die of hunger. The seeds they had brought from England might not grow. They looked everywhere. Once they saw Indians and a dog, but they ran away into the woods. They kept on looking. No corn, but an old kettle half buried in the sand. A ship's kettle. How did it come there? No corn, but a pot hung over the place where a fire had been. No corn, but small hills of sand. The men dug down into one, and there was a little old basket filled with corn. Now they had corn to plant. They found other baskets. These were big baskets, and it took 2 men to carry one. They filled their pockets with corn. Someday they would find Indians and pay them for it. One day they did see some more Indians. These Indians were not friendly. They shot at the settlers with their bows and arrows. The men shot back with their guns. After the Indians had gone, the settlers picked up many arrows on the sand. Now the people of the Mayflower decided to sail across the bay to find a place to build their homes. They sent the fishing boat first to find a good harbor. Then the Mayflower sailed across a place marked on the map. It was called Plymouth. The settlers called it New Plymouth because they had sailed from Plymouth in England. It was a cold December day when some of the settlers landed. Once again they knelt and thanked God. He cared for them. This was a good place for homes. Indians had lived there, and there were fields where corn had been grown. There was rich black earth for planting and plenty of fresh water. New homes in a new land. The winter was not a cold one, but it seemed long to the settlers. Many of them were sick, many of them died. It was a sad time for everyone. Some people stayed on the ship and others went ashore to work. They took with them some boards that they had brought on the ship. They cut down trees and made rough boards. First they built a house to hold food, and some of the sick people stayed in this house. There were 2 smaller houses. One was used to keep supplies, and one was for the sick people. One night, a thatched roof on the larger house caught fire. From the Mayflower, Giles, Constance, and Damaris could see the flames. The men on shore put out the fire. With a great deal of hard work, the men built 7 small houses. Now the Hopkins family had a home of their own. And at last came spring. There were new leaves on the trees and flowers in the woods and fields. Birds sang in the trees. The country was no longer cold and wintry and bare. It was green and friendly and beautiful. Almost everyone was weak and thin, for there had been so much sickness and not enough to eat. But weather for planting seeds was coming. Giles, Constance, and Damaris were happy to be out in the spring sunshine. Ever since they had landed, the settlers had been finding new trees and plants in this land. They also found many trees and flowers that they had known in England. They told each other about them as if they were meeting old friends. There were oaks and walnut and birch trees, ash and wild cherry and plum, and here are strawberries and watercress. In April, the Mayflower went back to England. Now the settlers were alone in a new country, alone except for the Indians. Sometimes the settlers saw smoke from Indian fires. They saw Indians too, but the Indians always ran away. One day, a tall Indian walked right into their village and spoke to the settlers in English. He had learned it from some of the sea captains who had come to that part of the country. His name was Samoset, and the people of Plymouth were surprised to see that the Indians wore so few clothes. It was still cold weather, and how could he have had only that little piece of leather around his waist? They gave him a coat. Later, he brought another Indian named Squanto, who spoke better English, because he had been taken to England on a ship. The 2 told the pilgrims why there were so few Indians in that part of the country. Many of them had died of sickness. It was fine to have a friendly Indian there in the daytime, but when night came, the settlers wished he would go away. He stayed, so they let him sleep in the Hopkins house. but watched him all night. Did Giles, Constant, and Damaris stay awake wondering about their strange visitor? We do not know. After this, the Indian chief, Massatuat, was to visit. The people of Plymouth made a place for the chief outside one of the houses they were building. They put boards and blankets on the ground and a green rug and cushions for Massatuat to sit on. The Indians came to the meeting wearing leggings of deerskin. Their faces and bodies were painted in bright colors. The chief was painted dark red and wore a necklace of white beads. The settlers went to the meeting in their best clothes, with a trumpet and drums. The governor wore a red sash and a feather in his hat. The settlers gave the Indian chief 2 shining knives and a copper chain to hang around his neck. Massatuat promised to be friendly. When his people came to Plymouth, they would not bring bows or arrows with them. The promise of friendship was kept for 50 years. Squanto, the friendly Indian, stayed in Plymouth. He showed the settlers how to plant corn in the Indian way. The Indians put small dead fish in each place where a seed was planted. This fertilized the corn and helped it grow. That year, men, women, and children worked hard planting, and that year there was a good crop of corn. Everyone worked to gather the harvest. A time of Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims decided to have a special day to thank God for all He had given them. They had done this at harvest time in England. Now they wanted to have a Thanksgiving feast and invite the Indian chief and his people. And what a feast it was! Men went out into the woods to shoot deer and wild turkeys. The women cooked and baked. Only 51 settlers had lived through the winter, and half of them were children. Only a few women to do all the cooking. The older children helped as much as they could. But now Oceanus Hopkins was walking, and a new baby, Peregrine White, slept in his cradle. Peregrine was born on the Mayflower when it was anchored off Cape Cod. His name meant wanderer or pilgrim. The day of Thanksgiving dinner was warm and pleasant. Long tables were set out of doors, probably the pilgrims dressed in their best clothes they had, and the men wearing their big wide hats instead of work caps. Then Massatuat, the great chief, came, and the settlers must have counted the long, long line of Indians that followed him. 1, 2, 20, 40, 50, 60? Yes, there were 90. Somehow there would be food for all. And there was. Massatuat and his men had done their share, for they had brought deer to the feast. The Indian chief and the governor of Plymouth sat at one table. Some sat at tables, some on the ground. Elder Brewster, the minister, said a prayer, giving thanks to God for homes and food and safety in the new land. The Indians may have understood about the prayer, for their people had a Thanksgiving prayer of their own. They gave thanks to their God, who made the trees grow, the corn grows, and all kinds of fruit. After the feast, the settlers played games. The Indians danced. Miles Standish brought out his soldiers, and they drilled as the Indians watched. The Indians stayed for 3 days. The Pilgrims did not forget the hard times. They knew there would be difficult times to come. Still, they felt they had many things to be thankful for. They had food and houses and warm fires. The Indians were their friends. They were free in this new land, free to work, free to make their homes, to worship God in their own way. Perhaps they sang the hymn they had brought to the New World with them. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. And if they did, Giles, Constance, and Damaris sang with them. The end.
Over the hills of snow. Hey, Frosty the snowman was a jolly happy soul with a corncob pipe and a button nose and two eyes made out of coal. Frosty the snowman is a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in
You need to come to Children's Park now. Some people know it as the dog park. It is just beautifully lit. It's just spellbinding, really, and you can walk all through the park and get up close to most of these sites here. It is just fabulous.
just the same as you and me. Oh, Frosty the snowman knew the sun was hot that day. So he said, let's run and have some fun before I melt away. Down to the village with a broomstick in his hand, running here and there all around the square, saying catch me if you can. He led them down the streets of town, right to the traffic count, and he only paused a moment when he heard him holler stop. Oh, he heard him holler stop. Frosty the snowman had to hurry on his way, but he waved goodbye, saying, oh, don't cry, I'll be back again someday. Yeah, I'll be back again someday. Oh, be back again someday. Thumpity-thump-thump, thumpity-thump-thump, look at Frosty go. Thumpity-thump-thump, thumpity-thump-thump, over the hills of snow. Thumpity-thump-thump, thumpity-thump-thump, look at Frosty go. Thumpity-thump-thump, thumpity-thump-thump, over the hills of snow.
Creative artists can offer you a wide range of video production. Call the experts and discuss your project today, whether it's your special event or your company. Creative Artist, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist produces this program you're watching. Call Creative Artist today, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist, they'll put you in the spotlight.
Welcome to the Georgia Aquarium. This is a great place. If you want to bring your kids, bring your family, this is a great place to come. Plenty of fish and sea life here to see, but a warning, if you haven't eaten, do that before you get here, because every foot of this place smells like Captain D's. Smell it. It's like shrimp, fish.
That's why I take lots of pictures. I better get off before my mom knows how good I am at moving sidewalks before I put to work.
And that's because they're related to sea anemones and coral, not fish. Jellies, anemones, and coral belong to a phylum of animals known as cnidarians.
This is the place for axe wheeling fun. Welcome to Lumberjacks. Come blow off some steam and throw an axe.
Lumberjacks is an axe throwing place. You can probably see the lanes behind me that we have 6 lanes that you can come in with a group of people, throw axes for an hour or two, have a beer or wine or craft soda, and it's a great way to spend a couple hours in a night. It's not one of these things like you go, nothing against bowling, but you need something new to do. You want something fun to do, something unique. That's where we come into place. I lived in Charlotte. They opened an axe throwing place down the street for me. I tried it out, loved it. Talked to some investors, and we decided to open one here. The 2 other investors got their MBAs from UGA. I used to live here, and I love this town. So I was like, why not bring it back to Athens?
The minute I walked into Lumberjacks, I knew this place was going to be fun. And it was. Being able to have a day of throwing an axe, talk about a stress reliever. If you're in the Athens area, I highly recommend that you make a time to come by and throw an axe for a while. Believe me, you'll be glad you did.
There's 2 kinds of people that come in here. They're the ones that are all excited. They really want to get into it. They're like, oh, axe throwing and drinking a beer. What could be better than this? And then there's the ones that are very hesitant. They're like, I don't know about this. Drinking and axe throwing, oh, that sounds awful. But after 10 minutes, they're hooked. We're not the place that you come in drunk. It's you have a craft beer while you're throwing, and then 1, 2. And then at the end of the hour, it's, you go have dinner downtown or you go hang out. When you live a little further out from a hub, let's just say, like Athens, sometimes you just get stuck in your own little bubble. You've got your grocery store, you've got your restaurant that you go to. Same thing with Monroe. Monroe's a decent sized city. You've got, Walmarts, you've got all the kind of standard amenity stuff. But it is still a little limited on what you can do. So especially in like Monroe area, your choices are head for Atlanta, and you know what kind of headache that is with the traffic and dealing with all the parking and that kind of stupidity. Or you can come into Athens, where there's good local restaurants, family-run places, and we want to expand upon that. We want this to be that nice hub that people can come from outside the area. Come up from Bishop, come over from Washington, come over from Monroe, come down from, Commerce, or even as far as like Conyers and stuff. We had some people in here a couple weeks ago that drove from Gainesville out to here because they didn't want to deal with Atlanta. They had been to the Atlanta axe throwing one, and then they came here and they're like, yeah, we're coming here from now on. So it's tough to get the word out that far out though. People actually have to be looking for us. So we're trying to expand upon it and try and get people from these outlying areas to Athens into the city.
Whether you think about it or not, music is a part of our lives. And for Tracy Stever, music is her life. Recently, I had the opportunity to stop by Stever Studios and talk to Tracy about how important teaching music is to the next generation.
I worked for Primerica, and my boss allowed me to have a little side room. So after work, I'd work 9 to 5 as the office manager, and I'd get off and I'd have a few students come up to the office. I had about 3, and over time, a couple years, it just grew, and then I had 5, and then I had 10. And then I met my husband, and he said, why don't you quit that office job, and why don't you just go for it and just do music, since that's really your passion. So I got in touch with Sadie Krozik, and she leased me a couple rooms over here around the back of City Hall. And at that time, I brought on a few more teachers, and we just kept growing and growing, and now we're probably up to about 80 students, and we've got about 6 other teachers that teach here besides myself. Oh, I mean, we have some serious talent here in Monroe. It's just amazing. A lot of, piano players are my specialty, where a lot of my kids really shine. When I was growing up, music was my life. Coming from a broken home, it was something that I could always turn to, that was always there for me. And I can't imagine my life without music. I'm a career musician. That's what I did when I was in middle school, in high school. I went to college for music education, and I just can't imagine a life without music.
Where do you come alive? A stadium, lecture hall, a music hall, church potluck? This year, you have a new spot, walkgeorgia.org, a free website that provides you with all the resources needed to get your heart rate up and body out in your community. Sign up and receive individual or group fitness tracking, fitness demos by certified trainers, recipes, and a guide to resources in your Georgia County, all in one easy-to-use site. When you move more, you live more. walkgeorgia.org.
Are you in need of tractor work, bush hogging, grading, cleaning, sod installs, and drainage repair? Then you need Bold Springs Landscape Solutions. Bold Springs Landscape Solutions is a licensed, insured, and certified landscape solutions company. Their services include grading and drainage, bush hogging and clearing work, as well as fencing, landscape, and sod installation. Contact Bold Springs Landscape Solutions today.